The Denver Broncos are sitting at 8-5, and they've just hit a critical moment in their playoff push. According to the latest playoff predictor, they're looking at an 87% chance of making it if, and this is a big if, they can win their next game. But there's a serious problem that nobody's talking about enough. Here's what's happening. They're locked in a three-way tie at 8-5 with the Ravens and Chargers in the AFC playoff race. 4 crucial games left. Everything looked promising. And then boom, their secondary takes a massive hit at the worst possible time. Riley Moss is out, and if you saw what happened in that Browns game, you know exactly why this is such a big deal. In this breakdown, we're going to look at their real playoff chances, why this cornerback situation could derail everything, and what their path to the playoffs actually looks like. Because their remaining schedule, that's a whole other story. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. So, the Broncos are right in the middle of the playoff mix with a very interesting situation. They're tied with 2 other teams, the Ravens and Chargers, in a wild card battle. With 4 games left in the regular season, every single win matters, and the margin for error is razor thin. Now, let me clearly present you the playoff picture. The Chiefs are sitting comfortably at the top of the AFC, but for the Broncos, it's all about securing a wild card spot. They're competing against teams like the Ravens and Chargers, who are all fighting to stay alive in this crowded race. And here's where it gets tricky. The Broncos have already lost head-to-head matchups against both the Ravens and Chargers, which puts them at a disadvantage in any tiebreaker scenario. That makes their next few games even more critical for the Broncos, and those games are not technically easy at all. First up, the Colts. This is the most important game on the schedule right now. Why? Because if the Broncos win, their playoff odds shoot up to 87%, but if they lose, those odds plummet to just 40%. This is a must-win game for Denver, plain and simple. Next, it's a quick turnaround to face the Chargers in a short week. The Chargers are in the same 8-5 logjam as the Broncos after a narrow loss to the Chiefs in Week 14, and they're also fighting for a wildcard spot. A win here wouldn't just boost Denver's chances, it would also deal a direct blow to one of their biggest competitors. But beating the Chargers won't be easy. They've got a strong offense and knew how to exploit a vulnerable secondary, which is something the Broncos are struggling with right now. Then comes the Bengals, a team that's had an up-and-down season. Depending on how things play out over the next couple of weeks, the Bengals could already be out of playoff contention when they face Denver. That might give the Broncos a slight edge, but let's not forget, this is the NFL, and nothing is guaranteed. Finally, the Chiefs. Facing Kansas City in the last game of the season is always a tall order. But there's a wild card here. If the Chiefs have already locked up the top seed in the AFC, they might rest their starters. That could give the Broncos a real shot at pulling off an upset. Either way, this game could be the difference between making the playoffs or heading home early. So, what's the bottom line? It all starts with the Colts. If the Broncos can't get past them, it's going to be an uphill battle the rest of the way. Every game matters from here on out, but beating Indianapolis is the key to keeping their playoff hopes alive. Now let's talk about the major problem we hinted at earlier, which can actually make things difficult for the Broncos in upcoming match against the Colts. The Broncos' secondary is in trouble. Riley Moss, one of their most promising young cornerbacks, is sidelined with an MCL sprain. He's expected to miss at least a couple more games, which leaves Denver scrambling for answers in their defensive backfield. Without Moss, the cracks in the secondary are becoming harder to ignore. Levi Wallace, a veteran corner, has been struggling big time. If you watched the game against the Browns, you saw how the opposing offense picked on him all game long. He gave up a ton of yards and a touchdown, and teams are taking notice. If Wallace has to stay on the field, the Broncos' defense is going to continue being a target. So, what can Denver do? One option is turning to rookie Kris Abrams-Draine. He's got the speed and potential to step up, even if it means working through some rookie mistakes. In the few reps he's had, Abrams-Draine showed promise, and at this point, the Broncos might not have a better choice. Another possibility is moving Jaquan McMillian to the outside and bringing in someone like Damari Mathis to cover the slot. It's not ideal, but the coaching staff has to find a combination that works, and fast. The bigger issue here isn't just the injuries, it's how opposing teams will adjust. If the Broncos can't lock down their secondary, they'll struggle to contain passing attacks, especially with tough matchups like the Colts' Michael Pittman Jr. and the Chargers' receiving corps still ahead. In short, Denver's defense has to find a way to hold it together until Moss is back. If they don't, even the best defensive performance might not be enough to carry them through these critical games. Now, looking at the Broncos offense, because while the defense has its issues, the offense isn't off the hook either. One of the biggest struggles this season has been closing out games. Too often, when the Broncos have a lead late in the game, their running attack just hasn't been able to seal the deal. To be fair, there has been progress. The Broncos' running game has started to show signs of life over the past few weeks. Jaleel McLaughlin has stepped up as a reliable option, adding some consistency to the backfield. But let's not sugarcoat it, there's still work to do. The offensive line needs to create more space, and the backs need to find ways to pick up critical first downs when it matters most. Late-game execution has to improve if Denver wants to hold on to leads against playoff-caliber teams. Looking ahead, offensive consistency will be key in these upcoming matchups. The Colts, Chargers, and even the Bengals are all capable of scoring quickly, so the Broncos can't afford to rely solely on their defense. They need long, sustained drives that keep their opponents off the field and take pressure off their defense, especially with the issues in the secondary. The bottom line? The Broncos' running game has improved, but it's still not where it needs to be. If they can't find a way to grind out tough yards in crunch time, their playoff hopes could slip through their fingers. It's not just about talent, it's about execution. And the Broncos need to start delivering, starting this week. Besides the Broncos, the other wildcard contenders' schedule is not easy too. The Ravens face a more challenging path to the playoffs with a schedule that alternates between winnable and tough games. They start with a relatively easy matchup against the Giants, but then face divisional rival Steelers, followed by the Texans on Christmas Day, and close out the season against the Browns. With multiple divisional games, their road is tougher, but their strong position in the standings gives them a good chance to make it if they can win at least 2 of these games. On the other hand, the Chargers have a mixed schedule ahead, starting with a tough matchup against the Buccaneers, followed by a key Thursday night divisional clash with the Broncos. They finished the season with 2 winnable games against the struggling Patriots and Raiders. While their schedule includes challenges, especially the Broncos game, the easier final stretch gives them a solid shot at securing a playoff spot if they take care of business. This is the real scenario of the Broncos' road to the playoffs. It is not very difficult if they go with the proper planning. With just 4 games left, every decision, every play, and every matchup counts more than ever. Let's see what happens next. The upcoming 2 weeks are going to be very interesting. So, that's all from my side, Broncos fans. What do you think? Can this team overcome the challenges and make a serious playoff push, or will these issues hold them back? Do you think the Broncos can survive without Riley Moss for the next couple of games, or will their defense struggle too much? Which game on the Broncos' remaining schedule do you think is the most critical for their playoff hopes? Colts, Chargers, Bengals, or Chiefs? Looking at the Ravens and Chargers schedules, who do you think has the best shot at locking up a wildcard spot? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters a lot. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button for all the latest AFC West updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.